Federal Judge Bruce Reinhart saying that he will release portions of the affidavit that led to the FBI's search warrant and raid on former President Trump's home in Florida. Reinhart ruling, quote, the government has not met its burden of showing that the entire affidavit should remain sealed. The Department of Justice has until noon on Thursday of next week to submit proposed redactions, though the judge does have the final say. Joining me now, Louisiana Congressman, House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. He's a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman Scalise, how long is it going to be, you think, before at least portions of this see the light of day? Because the judge also did say that if Justice isn't happy with the redactions that he makes, they can keep it under seal. He will keep it under seal until the government has the opportunity to appeal. So what are we talking about here?
Well, Dagan, it's going to be with you. Hopefully that is soon that we see it. And keep in mind, we've been seeing leaks over and over, just very selective leaks coming out of Justice over parts of this document. So, if they can leak some of it, why not let the public see all of it? They have no problem giving the New York Times or the Washington Post very selected pieces of it. Let's see the whole thing. I mean, this was an unprecedented action that was taken. If it was justified, as they're claiming, they should want it to be out there in the public domain, yet they're still fighting to keep it private. That should tell you something right there.
Right. Less than 90 days before the midterm elections, leaking, speculating, conjecture, lying, even fabricating, and a replay of what happened during Russiagate, which started even before the election in the summer of 2016.
Yeah, the same pattern. We saw that pattern over and over, really, since Donald Trump ran for president, started running for president. You've seen this attack by some people that just want to undermine him. They still do. They're still threatened by him. Most Americans are looking at the saying they want justice to be blind. And if his last name was Smith or Clinton, he surely wouldn't have faced that same outcome at Mar-a-Lago.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell downplays the chances that the Senate will flip in November. Listen to this, Congressman.
There's probably a greater likelihood the House flips than the Senate. Senate races are just different. They're statewide. Candidate quality has a lot to do with the outcome.
And Congressman, at the same time, you've seen some softening in support for Republican candidates in the House. What do you make of that? What's the cause of that?
Yeah, well, I still am very bullish on where we are in the House, and we've got phenomenal candidates. I was just on the road again. These last few days was in Denver. We've got 2 opportunities to flip seats right outside of Denver, Colorado. We have a number of other candidates that I've been with the last few days. And, in the Senate, it's always been a much more uphill road. Even though they only need to flip 1 more seat to get the Senate, everybody's recognized that that was a much tougher path to get there than in the House. But both can happen if voters stay energized. And look, the contrast has never been more clear. You were talking about this a little bit earlier. Every single Democrat just voted for a bill that not only raises $730 billion in new taxes and new spending, which will increase inflation, but every single Democrat also voted, House and Senate, also voted to add those 87,000 new IRS agents, more than doubling the size of the agency. Even after in the House it was confirmed that they're going to be going after people making under $400,000 a year, which is a direct violation of President Biden's promise. Yet everybody knows that's who they're going after. They're going to be going after them to the tune of over $20 billion in new taxes just for lower income families. Plus, they have a higher energy tax. So if you think you're not paying enough for energy, the good news is the Democrats just voted to raise your energy taxes, too. So that's the path that we've been looking at in terms of why voters are turning against Democrats in droves. It's going to absolutely help us in those House races, but I think it's going to help in the Senate races, too. So I think, when you look between now and November 8th, if voters stay engaged and really stay angry about what the Democrats have done to the country and want to make a difference, want to make a change in direction, you're going to have an opportunity by voting Republican to put a real check and balance on Biden and slow down this socialist train that they're riding.
But you're the problem. according to the New York Times, an op-ed claiming, this is a quote, "Republicans are America's problem." The author writes, quote, "We must stop thinking it hyperbolic to say that the Republican Party itself is now a threat to our democracy. I understand that sounds extreme. How else are we to describe what we are seeing?" I don't know what this Charles Blow is seeing. I know that James Carville came out and said Republicans are evil. I call that tales from the crypt. A majority of GOP voters are really stupid. Why do they think that this is a winning message? I call it desperation dumpster diving by these Democrats, but clearly they think they know better.
Yeah, and then surprised that it's coming from the New York Times. How impartial is this journalist when he makes such an insecure statement like that? He's admitting he's extreme, but he's so threatened by a political party. And you know what? When you look at what the Republican Party stands for, freedom, equal opportunity, people are making their decision. A million people last year left the state of New York and went to Florida. Hundreds of thousands have left California to go to states like Texas. People are leaving totalitarian, these socialist, communist-run states to go to freedom-loving states. And people like these reporters at the New York Times are threatened by it. Let's get him a safe space. I'm sure he's wearing 3 masks in his house by himself when he writes that article, and that's his business. But it just tells you a lot about the impartiality of some of the people writing these articles, Dagan.
Well, these liberals, James Carville, I'm assuming he's holed up in his house down in Louisiana somewhere. These writers for the New York Times, they don't work in jobs where their lives are at risk. I'm holding up the New York Post cover. This is a man who was standing outside of a restaurant uptown here in New York City who was sucker punched into a coma. The man who did it was a convicted sex offender, and he's out with no bail. So these are people, the cab driver who was murdered, people who were just trying to go have brunch and murdered on a subway, go to their job, and pushed, stabbed, murdered, and these liberals don't stand up for them. And Kathy Hochul, in addition to word managing, a salesman's now a saleswoman and an inmate is now an incarcerated person, she also banned the sale of toy guns unless they are in colors of like bright red or purple.
Yeah, and you wonder why Lee Zeldin's going to get elected governor of the state of New York. You wonder why a million people have left her state. Ultimately, people are rejecting big government socialism. People want freedom, and they're going to reject all these Democrats who have been pushing this garbage for so long. People have had enough.
Yeah, wait to get scolded when you say that criminals deserve to be in jail. There'll be an op-ed about that in the Times shortly, I'm sure. Congressman, great to see you. Pleasure.
Great being
Steve
with you,
Scalise.